We rollin'! Yeah! All night long.
What's good, y'all? Antoine back at it again, making the Walk podcast. For new listeners, obviously, we want you to like and subscribe, all of those good things. But for those veterans who've been around, we've been away for a little bit. We've dropped a few videos here and there, but we've had some things go on that kind of took us away from putting out content, but we couldn't be gone too long and miss UFC 290 International Fight Week. Alexander Volkanovski versus Yair Rodriguez. We couldn't step away for that one. So we are here. We're going to talk through a variety of topics. At some point, CJ is going to jump on and, who knows? We might talk about why we were gone. I don't know. But until then, until she jumps on, we'll just talk through a few things. Sean Strickland got a big win this past weekend, so we'll chat through those things. But as I said, remember to like and subscribe here, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcasts. Definitely add us on the list. So let's jump right into some of the topics here. So the first thing is this past weekend, Sean Strickland fought Abus Nurmagomedov and made easy work of him. Well, I say easy work, but he had to go through a little bit to get it done, but he got it done. And I think it's always interesting when these fighters who are unranked are fighting fighters who are like top 10 fighters. It always ends up either being a massive upset or just kind of what we thought was going to happen anyway. So in this particular fight, Sean Strickland, I won't say he took the first round off. He did more of a trying to figure Abus out, kind of let Abus punch himself out a little bit. And Abus was coming hard. I don't know if he thought he was going to finish Sean in the first round like he did his previous fights, but Sean's just not that guy. Sean spars quite heavily all the time against our boy Chris Curtis, and so he's used to people coming out hard and trying to take his head off in the first part of a fight, and so he weathered that particular storm. And in the second round, Abus was clearly gassed, clearly tired. He gave everything that he could at the beginning, and he didn't have much left. And that showed. And Sean went ahead and took him on out of there, made it real easy for him. So, but here's where the drawback is. I can appreciate fighters who are those anytime, any place, any one type of fighters. I can appreciate those things, but on the other side of it, if I was somebody that was close to Sean Strickland, the question would have been like, so like what for? Like, what does this do for you in the rankings? Like the risk doesn't necessarily outweigh it does outweigh the reward by far. Because if Abus came in there and sparked him, Abus would make the money off of his back, and get the ranking, get the number, get the fights off of his back. And Sean would, drop down in the rankings. And now the talk of him possibly challenging for the title at some point would be far, far, far gone. So I did question, him taking that particular fight, but, hindsight 2020, it really just makes him look even better because he was able to get him out of there so easily. So shout out to Strickland, to Sean Strickland. He also did something in the post fight that was pretty interesting. There were some comments that he made in an interview with Nina Drama, and they were He sounded like a 50s husband that beats his wife. That's what he sounded like. But Sean's not really that type of guy. From everything that I hear, I won't say it's a persona, but he does say things to get people riled up, and he does it on purpose. And I won't say he walked back those comments, but he made a clearer depiction of the fact that he was just joking. He was doing things that got attention, and it worked. Definitely worked. He's definitely a loose cannon, but that's just not the type of guy that he is. Oh, look here. I didn't see you there.
I've been here the whole time. You were late. I don't know what you're doing with your life.
Look, guys, it's CJ. She made it. Okay.
I've been here, like I say.
So what I was talking about Sean Strickland, getting that win this past weekend, and how I was saying that the risk far, far outweighed the reward on that fight, because Abus Magomedov, it was unranked. And just imagine if he would have came in there and lit Sean on fire, knocked him out in the first round, as he was trying to do. Just imagine how that would have worked for Sean. Like, that would have been terrible.
That's the only thing I had to say about this fight, to be honest. Other than the aftermath, which was the chunk of eye he had missing. That was gross. If you didn't see it.
Yeah, that was gross.
Yeah, that was crazy. So that obviously sparked or re-sparked the conversation about gloves. So.
Yeah. And on top of that, like, there was a fight the previous weekend. Well, actually, it feels like there's been a few fights. So Chris Curtis, that situation, that fight was canceled. And then there was a heavyweight fight. Justin Tafa.
Oh, that sucked. I forgot about that. That was really bad. I didn't see any, pieces of eye missing, but
yeah. Luckily, I think he has the full eye. He retained his eye in that mix-up, but it looked bad though. It was bad.
Yeah.
That
one was gnarly because it went pretty deep in his eye, and I had to actually look away on that one.
That was rough. That one was rough. Trevor Whitman, the coach for quite a few fighters, he created his own gloves, and they're supposed to help with that. And it's
how do they help with that? It just keeps their hands a little more closed versus allowing them
a little bit more closed, but somehow or another, it keeps their fingers from getting in a situation where they could
keeps their fingers from John Jones mode.
Yeah, it's not the full oven glove mitten, but like somehow or another, it does that. I have to look it up to actually see the visual of them, but I've heard a lot of people say that those are the gloves that the UFC should try to go towards. I think Luke Thomas said something about them. Joe Rogan said something. Those are two pretty big, sign-offs, cosigns.
Who did the gloves again?
Trevor Whitman.
Oh, I'm gonna look him up right now.
He's the coach for Rose, Justin, Kamaru. He's got those gloves, and I don't know what the situation is, but maybe they could help. But yeah, these eye pokes are definitely a situation for sure.
Yeah.
But luckily they didn't mess up that fight. But so where does Sean go from here? Like, what does he do? I think he's ranked, what is he, 7?
Mm-hmm.
And the fighters above him are Paulo Costa, who is also fighting an unranked fighter. What's his name? Alaskarov. And then you got Dricus Duplessis. He's fighting Robert Whitaker. To Marvin and Jared just fought. Alex Pereira is not even a middleweight right now. And then there's the champion. So, like, what do they do with Sean Strickland? Do they Does he fight the loser of Dricus du Plessis against Robert Whittaker? Like, what happens with this guy? He took no damage in this fight.
I mean, he can have a quick turnaround, but who does he fight? I have no idea. I don't even look at Sean Strickland. I'm going to be honest. Like,
it's just a weird situation at middleweight right now, at the top level. But we'll see. We'll have a little bit, a better picture after this weekend is clear on what happens up there at the top, because but we'll talk about that one later, because that's a big one. See what else happened on that card. I won't talk about all the fights, because all the fights aren't super relevant, but Grant Dawson, he beat Damir Ismagulov.
Sorry. What about Marvin?
What about him?
Well, he could fight Marvin.
He just lost. He could fight Marvin. He did. But I don't know, the timetable on that one. Because
it's going to have to be later in the year.
Face beat in by
Cannonier.
Jared Cannonier.
He's coming off a loss.
He is coming off a loss. And he can't fight. Sean can't fight Jared Cannonier. He just fought him.
Right. Actually, now that I think about it, that might be a pretty good fight. Because Marvin doesn't die.
Yeah, neither one of them hit really hard.
Can't say that about Marvin now after fighting Jared. I didn't realize he had that in him.
Both of them have power. It's just the way that they use, their strikes.
Yeah.
They choose not to throw with a lot of power because they rely a little bit more on their endurance. Mm-hmm. It's not to say that they don't have power. Just like, somebody like a Colby. Colby has power. He just chooses not to use it because he wants to weaponize his cardio. I think they are the same, right? They're professional fighters. They got power. But,
that's true.
It's just the way that they strike.
True.
But Grant Dawson, he beat Damir Ismagulov. He basically grappled him. Damir Ismagulov came, with a lot of striking, and he popped Grant a few times. But once Grant got a hold of him, it was curtains. He couldn't do anything. What was interesting to me about this fight was not necessarily that Grant was able to control him, was the way that he controlled him in comparison to Arman Sarukian, who's supposed to be like the super grappler of the division outside of Islam. He couldn't do that to Damir Ismagulov. So the fact that Grant Dawson was able to do that, says a lot about his ability. And this fight actually put him in the top 10.
Did it?
Yeah. So he jumped over Jalen Turner, over Dan Hooker. He is now number 10. So he's got nothing but big fights ahead of him. I think if he fights anybody that's, in that 5 to 7 range, and, someone like a Gamrot, maybe, if he fights Gamrot and beats Gamrot, people are going to be calling for him to get a title shot soon. It happens fast around here. Moving on in the card, we got Michael Morales. He beat Max Griffin. So Michael Morales from Ecuador, he beat Max Griffin. I would say that it was handedly. I think it was a clear decision. Max had him hurt a couple of times, but it wasn't serious. And, by the end of the fight, Michael Morales was basically showboating in a sense. So he knew he had it in the bag. I was impressed that Michael was able to go all 3 rounds, never look gassed, look composed. And with somebody being as young as he is, I think he's 24. He's definitely a problem in that division. And the welterweight division has got a lot of young talent with like Ian Machado, Gary, Jack Della, Madalena, a lot of young talent that's going to start to move up into the upper echelon. But Michael Morales is going to be one of those folks, and he's undefeated. Yeah, he's going to be a problem for sure. For sure.
Did I watch this fight? Did I watch this card? I feel like I didn't watch this card.
You watched some of it. You didn't watch all of it.
Did I not? Okay.
Like there's a few fights, like Kevin Lee against
Renat.
Yeah. He that was not even a fair fight at all. It was so bad. Kevin Lee got caught by a right hand and then choked, severely unconscious. I don't know if that man's awake now.
That was crazy. This is the one where I think Curb Dean was.
He was on the other side of him. He couldn't tell.
He was like behind him, and when Renat let him go, he just kind of slumped. On his face, pretty much.
Yeah, went down Lyoto Machida style when John Jones choked him out. Yeah, it was similar to that. It was like savage. But I mean, that's what he's supposed to do. But like, I feel like the UFC tried to prove a point in this fight. It was like, Kevin Lee, we cut you, and you've been, out here on the fringes talking, a lot about, believing that you deserve to be in the UFC. Okay, cool. We'll bring you back for a fight. And they brought him back, and he got washed in 55 seconds. But he fought a dude that was on a 20-fight winning streak.
He's on a 20-fight winning streak? I didn't know that either.
Fight winning streak. Like, it was like, okay, now that ain't right. Like that's
kind of messed up.
That's Nate Diaz versus Hamzat Chimaev. It was like, now y'all ain't got to do that. You ain't got to do that to him.
Right.
And he got cut. He's out. He's out that fast. As fast as he came in, he's right back out.
Yeah, that's
I don't think that was right. I know that Kevin was talking about, initially before he got booked for this fight, he was talking about fighting or wanting to fight Tony Ferguson in a rematch because, they fought before for the interim title many, many years ago. I feel like that would have been a more appropriate fight just to see where he is. Kevin Lee's not old. He's 30. He's not old at all. But maybe he's just not there. I don't know. I felt bad for him.
Got caught. It happens.
I
don't know if he's not there, but
it was bad. And then the last one I was going to talk about on this card was Elvis Brenner. He beat Guram Kutladze. I know that one's hard.
Bless you.
Kutladze. So he beat him.
That's a tough one.
And so Guram, what's interesting about him, do you remember, this has to be a few months ago, when we went on like this kick where we looked like at a bunch of block asset stuff. A lot of stuff from Hamzat Chimaev's team. Do you remember on YouTube, we watched a whole bunch of stuff from him.
Just like on his channel? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Guram is on that team. And they showed him doing some sparring against him. And I was like, man, that dude there is like, I mean, he's super technically sound. Like everything he does as far as striking is perfect. He's got a ton of power. He just looks like, the way that you would create a player in UFC 4. Like he looks like that. And he came in and like he was fighting exactly like that too. And Brenner was getting pieced up. But then in the third round, he got tired. And Elvis was able to hit him with some big shots and was able to TKO him. And the way that it goes for everybody, people are like, well, maybe he wasn't that good after all. And it's always like one fight where they're like, well, you lost the one fight, so I guess you're not that good. When in reality, it's just it's like getting a 90 on the test. I mean, you got some stuff wrong. And that's what happened with him. He got some stuff wrong. So now he can go back, fix those areas. I think that when he comes back, like, I don't care who they match him up against, he's going to knock him out in the first or second round. You can book it. I don't even care who he goes against. He's going to knock him out. Like, sleep out. So I have a lot of faith in him and in that team. So we'll see how that goes. So moving on to current events, the biggest event going on right now is obviously International Fight Week. So a couple questions for you, actually. So what do you know as a new, like, ingrained person in the sport now? What do you know about International Fight Week?
Nothing. I don't know why it's a thing.
Okay, cool. So International Fight Week, initially when they first started doing it, it was, they were trying to get more people into the UFC, like as far as like interested and things like that. And so the International Fight Week is almost like an expo or a conference where they invite, all these people to Vegas. They have all these different events where they have like UFC fighter meetings, and they have the induction into the Hall of Fame. They have Q&As. They have a lot of different events, the same type of thing that you would see at a conference. Like if you would go to the Salesforce conference or go to, what just happened, the Figma conference, like any of these conferences where they're bringing people in, people are flying in and buying tickets and all that stuff. And the whole point of the conference is to evangelize whatever that subject matter is. That's what International Fight Week was. But now I feel like we've reached a certain plateau of what the UFC is in mainstream media at this point. I don't know if people find the same joy in International Fight Week that they used to.
I mean, well, what kind of value is it going to bring now at this point? The UFC is, I don't want to say, it's different. I think they need to pivot what International Fight Week is and what value it brings not only to the fans, but to the fighters as well. Because to me, this is just another pay-per-view. So
let's see. So I'll tell you like what's going on in International Fight Week. See if any of this sounds at any point interesting to you. All right. So on Thursday, they have the press conference, which of course they have press conferences all the time, but the press conference, it's free and open to the public. Then after that, they have the Hall of Fame induction. That's on Thursday. On Friday, they have UFC X, which is like Expo. And at that, they have like fighter meetings, where you get to, meet fighters and things like that. And like, it's not like you're meeting like back of the roster fighters. Like you're meeting, like, I think Aljamain Sterling is going to be there. Who else? Shevchenko, okay. Charles Oliveira, Jamal Hill.
Is it their team?
No,
is it their gym? Are coaches there?
It's them. Now, their coaches may be there. They could go, but they don't necessarily have to or anything like that. But because the meeting, and it's not like a meeting. It's just like a meet and greet. But
oh, okay. Well, I mean, people love meet and greets.
Yeah. Yeah. And so they have a couple of sets of those over Friday and Saturday. Then they have the Q&A, like I said. Then they have the ceremonial weigh-in. Saturday is the actual fight itself, but they have a fight party a watch party for people who don't have tickets. They have an after party, and then on Sunday they have a pool party. So like they're doing all these
Who's they?
things.
Are these
The UFC? The UFC is
right?
doing this.
So the fighters, right? Do I guess people who purchase tickets for International Fight Week, do they also go to the pool party on Sunday or to the watch party, or how are they involved in this? Is it just fighters?
No. This is for the public.
Oh, okay.
So it's not for the fighters.
I think that's cool. Those are for the serious fans, you know. Get to meet some of the fighters, and I think that's good for the fighters too. They get to interact with their fans a lot more closely. Meet and greets are really good for that. I think it's cool in that case. And would I go? I don't know.
It still wouldn't necessarily be like a big thing for you necessarily. I mean, there's obviously no right or wrong answer. I'm just curious as a person who is newly invested in this, you know, how you see this.
If I were a person that was pursuing, this career, yeah, absolutely. I would love to join that. But if I don't have a passion other than to be entertained, and just to enjoy really the art, then, you know, I'll take a backseat on that. I'll go, you know, I can appreciate it for sure.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
That's interesting. Yeah. No, I was curious because, I mean, for me, like, you know, this is like bucket list type of thing. Like I want to go to, for sure, to go to International Fight Week because of the access. You just don't get that all the time. Now, like what they do or what they have done a lot of times is in different cities, if they have a fight card going on there, they'll do kind of a mini UFC expo type of thing where you are able to meet some of the fighters. Like that's where I've met, you know, Donald Cerrone and Raquel Pennington at that. But it's not as big as this one, you know. This one's just a massive undertaking. And there's a lot more fighters that are actually there. So that's why it entices me.
Yeah, no, I could see it. I think maybe to put it into perspective, I would probably be like the Keith Stanfield's character in Atlanta if I were to go to something like that. So that's not good or bad. I would enjoy it. It would be cool. I would probably find some moments like there's specific fights where I would want to know certain things like, so did that shit really hurt? You know what I mean? Type deal. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds cool though.
Yeah. That's interesting. Interesting perspective. So speaking of International Fight Week, let's look at some of these fights that are about to happen. I'll start further down the card.
Top? Oh, okay.
I'm starting further down the card. I gotta build up.
Okay. I will start at the top. It's Alex. I don't know.
Okay. Well, we can start at the top.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
we can start there. So Alexander Volkanovski comes back down to fight Yair Rodriguez, who is the interim featherweight champion, to unify the belts.
I think it's interesting. So first I want to start with Yair because last night I was like, how did he even get this interim belt? So just kind of re-explain that because I also, for the first time, don't know how I missed this, saw Brian Ortega and Volk's last fight or whatever. Never seen it in my life. Why? But how does Yair come into the story? How did he get the belt? The interim belt anyway.
So is your question more about like why?
How did Yair get here?
Like how he got here or why there was even an interim belt at all? Not
why there was an interim belt. How did he even get here? Like before, I think he fought Brian Ortega for the belt, right?
No, he fought.
I thought that's what you said.
No, he fought Brian Ortega to get the opportunity to fight for the belt.
So who did he fight for the interim then?
Josh Emmett.
Interesting. Okay, I guess I missed that. All right, so he fights Josh Emmett and he gets the interim belt.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Is he supposed to be here? That might be my question. I'm not. It's not a good or bad thing. I don't really see him at the same level as Volkanovski.
Yeah, I mean that's fair, but at the same time, who do you see at the same level as Volkanovski? I mean,
after last night, he's a monster.
Yeah.
I don't. He had to go to the next weight class. He had to fight Islam, and Islam struggled. So
mightily, yeah. I mean, it's
not. It's his IQ. It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
What did I say yesterday about him and Brian? I said just the way that he presses forward and the way he can find himself with his height disadvantage, in these pockets with fighters that, have either reach advantage or, a particular, like they have better jujitsu that's difficult. And he just, what happened with Brian Ortega? He was caught in a guillotine, a mounted guillotine. And he was able to, that's some adversity that you have to go through to get out of a position like that. And that's Brian Ortega's specialty, right? So what does Yair have for him?
Unpredictability. So if you look at, well, I'll answer your first question. You asked how Yair got here. So Yair, his last few fights before the Josh Emmett fight, they were kind of weird. But so he fought Brian Ortega and Brian got hurt. He had a shoulder injury. And so Yair won the fight. Before that, he fought Max and he lost. But it was a very close fight. It was definitively Max won that fight, but it was a close fight. Before that, he fought Jeremy Stevens, who is not in the UFC anymore. He beat him by decision. Before that, it was Chan Seung Jung, a Korean zombie. He beat him with an amazing Hail Mary elbow at the end. So if you were to just look at those fights, I could see
it's hard to get a gauge.
I could see why you would question it. But if I'm going to lean on anything, I would lean on what he did to Josh Emmett when he fought for the interim belt. He dominated him. He dominated him in a more clear sense than what Ilia Topuria did to Josh Emmett. Because Josh Emmett got finished by Yair. He finished him in 2 rounds. Mm-hmm. So if Josh Emmett is kind of that line of demarcation, then Yair, passed with flying colors in a sense. Now, does he have anything for Volkanovski? He's not going to show him necessarily anything that Volkanovski isn't ready for, but he will show him something that he hasn't seen. And Volkanovski understands that. His kicking game is what separates him from other fighters in the division. So Yair is kind of got a similar body style to Max Holloway, but Max Holloway is more about his hands. He's more about punching. And so when you're in, punching range, that's different from kicking range. And kicking range is what Yair relies on. So going back to the last fight where where Max and Volk are fighting. Volk is taking advantage of his speed advantage, and when Max is coming in to throw shots, Volkanovski is catching him. Well, against Yair, it's going to be different. Yair is going to be throwing kicks. And Volkanovski can throw them hands as much as he wants. He's not going to get to him. That's the difference. And so not only is he able to throw kicks, he throws explosive kicks. He's an explosive athlete, and he can knock him out with any of those kicks. He's got elbows and he has hands. So he has a lot of different weapons as opposed to somebody who has a similar body style. So I think that's where the threat is. And I think Volkanovski recognizes that. What I anticipate is Volkanovski using a little bit more wrestling, because that is Yair's weak point. And just staying unpredictable. I think that Volkanovski wins this fight, but I don't think it's as easy as people are making it seem. And I think that, according to my bingo card, I said that Yair is going to win this fight. But
you did?
I said on the bingo card that Volkanovski loses 2 in a row. And I knew which 2 they were going to be.
Right. I remember you said that.
Yeah.
So
I knew it was going to be Islam, and I knew that Yair was going to beat Josh Emmett, and it was going to have to be Yair. So now we're at the end of that sequence, and I need Yair to win. But I still think that Volkanovski is going to win. And I don't think that I'm going to get that square, but I think that people who are counting Yair out that's
a good perspective. I mean,
they could be massively wrong.
That's true. So, and it is a good point about Yair. I think if I were Yair, I would try to take his legs from under him, lose his power. Mm-hmm. But Volkanovski would expect that. So I'm excited for the fight, but I was still kind of curious. What does Yair have for him that he hasn't seen? Even just, what happened, with Jose Aldo, what happened there, and Volkanovski. I mean, he's pretty explosive. He is. So,
but
interesting.
But I think the difference between like him fighting, a Jose Aldo versus Yair's 5'11", Jose Aldo's 5'7". Jose uses his hands more than he uses his kicks. At that point, he did.
Right.
Yair kick heavy versus his hands secondary. So if Yair comes out, throwing a lot of kicks, and using that to dictate the range, I think that Volkanovski is gonna have a puzzle to solve trying to get inside.
Maybe. He's pretty good at checking those kicks. Are you thinking he's going to do a lot of body shots, like when he's kicking, or is he going
all of them?
Just
everything,
legs, head,
everything.
body, leg? Okay.
He's going to go everywhere with them, everywhere. Spinning kicks, like jumping knees, all kinds of stuff. He's going to do everything. Yair
I've seen
is
Volk get
wild.
caught with all those. I've seen him get caught with all of those things. So, and be put in situations where he had to overcome some things. So,
yeah,
we'll see.
Yair's a different kind of cat too when it comes to those. Like, he can definitely put you out. Definitely.
Okay. So I'm still going Volk, obviously, because I would like to see him fight Islam again. And if he doesn't win this fight, I don't think
I'm not really that hype on seeing that fight again.
I wasn't before, because I would really prefer to see Islam and Fiziev, to be honest. But after seeing what happened in this fight, this last fight with Islam, yeah, I do. I want to see it again. For sure.
I think I would rather just, It does kind of depend. It depends. If Yair wins this fight, then I
I
definitely
don't
don't
want to
want to
see
see
him
it.
in Islam.
But but if Volk wins this fight, especially if he wins this fight like handedly, like he washes him, then it's
Right.
like, okay, I guess you ain't got nothing else to do. But I just don't want to tie up the lightweight division gets tied up on its own with specifically, these are two of my favorite fighters up there, but they tie the division up. Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje, they're and less so Justin Gaethje, but more so Dustin Poirier. Like, he's had a lot of time off in between fights, and he holds that position. And I can't say those things about Colby Covington and not repeat them for Dustin Poirier. So when you have a lot of time in between fights and you're at the top of a division, you can kind of hold the division up. So,
That's a really exciting division. So I see where you're coming from in terms of Islam fighting Volk. What if Volk beats Islam a second time? In that case, now he kind of opens the floodgates. And is he going to fight Charles?
Because if Islam loses to Volk, then who's to say that they're not going to give Islam a freaking immediate title rematch? So now we got 2 fights we got to wait on.
True. Depends. I don't know. Would the
I don't think
UFC
that
give Islam a rematch? Because
they might.
Who's he defended in the division? Who's he defended against?
Nobody.
So would they give him the immediate rematch? It's like, he came and snatched your wig. Sorry. Like, I don't know.
I mean, but his argument is y'all gave him 2 shots to do it. And now we even.
But
let
if
me
he decided,
let me get my get back.
I mean, if he decided to take the fight, he decided to take the fight. The UFC isn't necessarily fair.
No, they're not.
But I mean, they could. They very well could give him, the rematch. Would they want to do that? I'm sure that those are all things that they're thinking about. But I wouldn't put it past the UFC to bet on Volkanovski beating him and opening the floodgates of seeing him and Charles or him and Justin. Like, almost in a way, I would rather kind of see those. But
so here's a question: would you rather see Islam rematch Volkanovski or Islam rematch Charles Oliveira?
I like Charles. I want to see him get his belt back. Volk and Islam. If Volk wins this fight.
Interesting.
I'm just going to get, it depends, obviously. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not a bad answer. So you said Volkanovski. That's who you're going with?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. We'll try to get through these next 2, but before you have to go.
Cool.
So Brandon Moreno against Alexandre Pantoja, the Cannibal, which is a great nickname. So did you know that this is the 3rd time that they fought?
I'm trying to remember because I did do a deep dive on this a couple months ago, actually. So I'm also trying to remember where I landed. And it's hard because I haven't seen Brandon fight anyone but, Figueiredo for, 2 years now, 3 years now?
Well, you saw him fight Kai Kara France in person.
That's how bad it is. That just went right over my head. He did. Didn't he knock him out?
No, it was well,
did he
I
kick
guess
him?
so, technically.
I thought he kicked him in the stomach,
body
a
kick.
liver kick situation. Yeah. I totally forgot about it. So I'm not saying that was hard because I think that was early too. That's not true.
Well, when they fought?
That's not true. I remember rewatching that. Yeah. It's hard to remember when you're in person, Oh,
yeah. So
I'm going to go Brandon Moreno, but give me your thoughts on Pantoja and just kind of remind me.
So Pantoja
what's
is
going on with him?
he's a super aggressive fighter. which is, where that cannibal name comes from. He's hunting for finishes. He's primarily a ground fighter, but he has some pretty big power for a lightweight. And he has a psychological advantage, the same way that we looked at Alex Pereira when he was fighting Izzy. That psychological advantage of beating somebody. And he's beat Brandon twice. Mm-hmm. So, and they weren't close. Like, it's not like, oh, I was, no, you're getting your ass whooped twice. And that second time, Brandon lost, he got kicked out of the UFC. So there's some scars, in this particular fight. But I think if you were to look at their progression as fighters, comparing, from the last time that they fought, Brandon has leveled up leaps and bounds in comparison to Pantoja. And he has that chip on his shoulder of fighting somebody who beat him. I wouldn't doubt that he, reached out to Izzy to get some feedback, some pointers on how to deal with this sort of situation. So,
okay,
I'm going Moreno too.
Yeah, Pantoja's got a few submissions on his record. I'm starting to remember this deep dive here. Mm-hmm. Forgot he also fought Brandon Royval too.
Yeah, he did.
Who's a monster. And he won. That was a rear naked choke in the second round. So, only advantage I could be seeing, maybe if they get there, is this going to be a 5-round? Yeah. So,
yeah, it's for the belt. Yeah,
that's something to consider. Pantoja hasn't been there.
Nope. I think that is going to help him quite a bit as far as overcoming the confidence that Pantoja is going to come in with. Moreno has he's been in all these championship fights now. He's been in there with somebody who really hurt him. When he was fighting Figueiredo, he's been on the losing side of things, the winning side of things. He's gone through it. So I think that all of that has made him mentally tough, and I don't think that this is going to bother him. And I think it's going to be a close fight initially, but I think that Moreno's going to overwhelm him. I think that
Okay, yeah. I'm going Moreno on this one too. Just looking at his stats, like, strikes landed per minute, striking accuracy. You can probably throw a comparison up there, but I think Moreno comes out on top. So,
yeah, I think so.
Be a good fight.
Here's the last one. I'll talk with you on. Let you get back to your regularly scheduled program. Yeah. So Robert Whittaker against Dricus du Plessis.
Finally. Let's see. Is this on my bingo card? Let's see. I've got a square. I do. Yeah.
Oh, you said that they were going to fight?
I did.
Yeah, you nailed it.
I nailed it. Yeah. Whittaker. Almost in a way, I kind of want to say hands down. I don't have a lot of confidence in Dricus, seeing his last couple of fights.
No,
yeah,
I think that this is Robert's fight to lose. All he has to do is go in there and be Robert, and he wins this fight.
Yeah.
But one thing that I will say on Dricus' side is my major problems with him has always been his cardio. I always thought his cardio was super suspect because once he gets tired, he starts getting real sloppy. And then we see those fights like, him fighting against Darren Till or him against Derek Brunson where they're both tired and it looks like two heavyweight sloppy dudes fighting. Dricus tends to fall into those situations. But What I didn't know was he actually had nasal problems, and he actually got that fixed between the Derek Brunson fight and now. Those nasal problems were causing him to not be able to breathe, which
And
obviously is going to
right.
affect cardio.
Oh,
So,
that makes sense. Yeah.
yes, a lot of sense. So, if cardio is not an issue, does Dricus still lose to Robert Whitaker? Yes, he does. But the gap is not as big, in my opinion. The gap is smaller.
Fair enough.
But I still think that Robert Whitaker is a better fighter. I think that he's going to win this fight. But I give Dricus a little bit more opportunity to win since he's gotten a little bit of that cardio situation figured out. But
now I'm kind of looking forward to the fight.
Robert Whitaker is a championship fighter. He's the second best middleweight on the earth. I just can't see Dricus coming in, and unless he catches him, it's possible. Robert does get hit. I don't see. This is too much too soon for Dricus.
They're trying to get him that whole Izzy storyline situation, and they're really trying to push him to the top, and nobody's buying it. But it was on my bingo card, so.
Yeah. I think that, it's kind of similar to what they did to Alex, to Pajeda. It's just.
That was different. He was a monster.
They had a storyline, but Dricus and Izzy have a storyline too. I think that when they matched Alex against Sean, they were like, okay, true test. If you can get by this guy, okay, you deserve it. And this is Dricus's true test. Okay, if you can get by this guy, okay, you got a shot at the belt.
Should have been the inverse, right? Like Alex fighting Whitaker should have been the true test, to be honest. But I think that would have been more of a risk because of wrestling, grappling. So
yeah, because I think Rob would have beat him. He just took him down, wrestled him. Yeah,
I think they didn't want to. They didn't want to go that route. They knew Sean was going to stand up with the guy. But that's like the UFC, their marketing side. But just from a pure fighting stance, I think that would have been the fight that made more sense, and ranking wise too. And then Dricus and Strickland fighting makes more sense.
Yeah.
That's his next fight. That's Strickland's next fight. Yeah.
Yeah, that might be his next fight for sure. Now that fight, that's a little bit more up in the air.
Sean is going to be. That's going to be a good fight, just in general, like even the build up, because Sean's going to be an asshole to Dricus. So.
He doesn't know any other way to be.
Yeah, he kind of makes me think of Bisping, but worse, because the lines that he crosses are.
Yeah, he crossed all the lines.
I didn't even know that line was there when he crossed it. He made it up.
Yeah.
He's a fool.
So
it's 1
Robert. O'clock. Did you want to keep going or?
I do. Let's see. We've got Jalen Turner, Bo Nickel. I'm at 115. Let me look at the prelims really quick.
So I'm not going that far into them. I'm
okay, cool.
So I'm just doing Jalen, Bo, Robbie, and Jimmy Crute and Alonzo Minifield. So.
Okay, cool. I can tell you my picks. That's going to be hard because I like them both. And as far as Jalen Turner and Dan Hooker, that's tough.
A tough one, right?
That's tough. It's going to be a really good fight.
I think so. I think it is. So before you say, let me tell you this. In the fights that Dan looks amazing in, he has a reach advantage.
I'm thinking
able to
about
stay
Dan
on the outside.
And Dustin, though.
Yeah.
That's the fight in my mind.
Dustin's a different kind of dude. But
I know.
But Dan had him hurt in that fight.
I know. So if I'm thinking, let's put Jalen Turner and Dustin in Octagon, I'm like, you don't want to be there. So I think I'm gonna go Dan Hooker. I think he's just seen more. I'm gonna go the experience route here. But he can get caught like anyone. But I'm going Dan.
I'm gonna go Jalen Turner. I think that he knocks him out. But
I can see it.
But the reason that I say that he knocks him out is because it is because of that reach situation. Dan, I mean, he's going to train for it. You know, he's in there with somebody who has that type of reach, you know, in his camp. He's got Izzy right there. It's, you know, this is a person that's similar to Jalen. Actually, I think Jalen might have a longer reach. I don't know. But I think that he's still going to struggle with that range. And unless Dan mixes in some takedowns, which he could, because Dan can take people down. Unless he mixes in those takedowns and keeps Jalen guessing, I think that Jalen is going to be just a little bit better in the striking. And I think that at some point he's going to catch him. And Jalen has this weird power for a skinny dude.
Yeah.
And Dan, you know, we've seen it ever since he lost against, well, actually, ever since that Dustin Poirier fight, Dan has been very different. Dustin took some years off of his career in that fight. And so I think that kind of comes up again in this fight, and I think that Jalen clips him. It sucks for Dan, though, because I really like Dan. Yeah. I like Dan a lot.
Yeah.
He's one of those fighters where it's just like, you know, you would want to, you know, grab a beer with Dan Hooker because he just seems like a really cool dude. But
yeah,
that's not going to help you in the octagon.
It's not. That's why I was like, well, but Jalen Turner, is he? I'm trying to remember. Did he do that through a kick? It got checked, and he did like a spinning knockout kick. Was that him?
No,
was
that wasn't him. That's Buckley.
Okay, so
Buckley.
The same Jalen issue Turner, I have with like Dan and the three other guys that I confuse him with is the same issue I have with Jalen Turner.
Oh, Jalen don't look like nothing like them. Jalen
neither do the other, like Dan Hooker. Who's the other guy with the arm? You know, like with Aljo.
With the arm?
And his arm came out of his socket?
Oh, that's right. TJ Dillashaw, yeah.
Dan Hooker and TJ don't look anything alike. Confuse their fights all the time when I think back about them. So Buckley
Jalen just
Turner,
recently fought Gamrot.
Right. He lost.
He lost. It was a decision. I actually thought that Jalen won the fight, to be honest.
Can't remember that. But I confuse him and Buckley. And there's another guy, one more, that I confuse. They look nothing alike. Don't know. Don't know why. I don't even think they have similar fighting styles. At least like Dan Hooker and those guys, they have similar fighting styles. These guys don't have similar fighting styles at all.
Well,
yeah, but
yeah, Jalen is, you know, he's a lightweight, you know, 155, but he's 6'3".
That's he's really tall.
Yeah.
And
super tall.
Really like
super tall.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be an issue that Dan's going to have to get around because he's just not he's not used to fighting people that size. He's used to being the taller fighter, the taller, rangier fighter. And you know, Dan is 6 feet. He's going to have about a 2-inch reach disadvantage. But that's in the arms, you know, the legs are different. So, and Jalen Turner's nickname is Tarantula, so you know his legs are long.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, I see it now. He's 77-inch reach, 75. Was he 6'2"? Dan 6 foot. He's 28 though. Dan's only 33, so I'm just trying to think of where's their man strength playing on this. He is really little. Like, I mean, he's
thin.
He's very fit, but yeah, he's really thin.
Oh yeah, he's super thin. Super thin.
Yeah.
But I mean, you got to be that tall, make 155.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, Dan doesn't look that way though. I don't know. He just looks a little.
I mean, Dan fought, at 145.
Mm-hmm.
That's where he knocked out Gilbert Burns.
Why we gotta talk about that? All right, that's my cue. Gotta go. Make me sad before I go. Yeah, Dan looks a little more full. He's got a little bit more experience. I see what you're saying though about not being the same after Dustin. So I'm still gonna go Dan though. He's got a good team behind him.
I wouldn't be mad if Dan won. I would not be mad.
Yeah, I think it's more of a confidence thing as a fan. Like things I'm considering. He's got a good team around him. I think they'll do a good job.
Excellent team around him. I mean, in the fights that he's lost, every fighter that he's lost against was or is in the top 5 of the division. So he lost against Arnold Allen. That's a featherweight. Arnold Allen is number 2. He lost against Islam. Everybody loses against Islam.
Yep.
He lost to Michael Chandler, who was at 5 at the time.
Shit,
and
did he get
lost to
knocked
Dustin
out
Poirier
by Michael Chandler?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, damn.
But the drawback though is of those 4 losses, he got finished in 3 of them. So
still going Dan.
I'm not trying to sway you. Those are just the facts. It's just the facts.
Who's fighting the Bo Nickel but his opponent dropped out?
Yeah, so he was originally fighting
someone's coming in.
Gore. Yeah,
okay.
He was, Trayshawn Gore with the eyes that are a little bit closer together. They're a little bit closer together.
Bo Nickel should win this fight, but I'm actually going to go for the new guy.
Yeah, so this is one, you remember when I told you, like, I made, a really good return on betting on Holly Holm when she fought Ronda Rousey? Because I really placed the bet because I was like, them odds are crazy. I'm betting on this one. Just throw a little bit of money in there just to see what happens. And, magic happened. This is another one of those magic could happen fights. Val Woodburn is, he wasn't in the UFC. This is his first, fight in the UFC. Short notice, but Val is a knockout artist. That's what he does. And in order to beat somebody like Bo Nickel, who is very confident, but sometimes a little overconfident in his striking, is to fight somebody like Val, who can put you out with one punch. And while I don't think that that's going to happen, I would be willing to put a couple dollars on it just in case it does. That's really my only remarks about this fight.
Pretty much.
If we're looking at technical, Bo should beat him, no problem. Should beat him in the first round, to be honest.
Yeah. We'll see. I'm betting on the gardener.
He is a gardener. That's right.
What do we call him?
He's the warrior
of the garden.
Yeah.
Is that how he said it? Warrior in the garden.
Yeah, he said some old weird stuff. Warrior in the garden, counting your pebbles, don't count your chickens, and I don't know what he was saying.
I'm going for the gardener. Final answer.
I'm going for Val just to upset the apple cart. I think I've found a place.
He's the gardener, right?
To bet on it. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
I'm
cool.
going for Val too.
Cool.
No, I'm just saying I'm voting for him to throw off the Bo Nickel hype train just for fun.
I agree. Both cool, but
yeah,
I was gonna go for Gore anyway. I was betting against him before he.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I probably was gonna go for Trayshawn too. Just because.
Yep, I think we need to do a Bo Nickel deep dive. Why? I don't think we dislike him. I think
no, I actually like him.
I mean, yeah.
But I almost feel like losses make you likable. When you see somebody that has some adversity, you're like, okay, I'm rooting for you to make it back. But when you just come in and you're just like unbeatable, people are like, well, that's not fun.
Well,
So
that's true. I did kind of go against Amanda a few times. I wasn't around long enough to go against Habib for long, but did you? Did you ever hope Habib was going to lose any of his fights?
only when it was, he was fighting
Dustin
somebody.
yeah,
Dustin and
gotcha.
Justin. I was like, man, I really hope they pull it off, but I don't see it.
Okay. That's different though. It wasn't because.
But then again, it wasn't
unbeatable
because
record.
it wasn't because of the record.
Those are your guys.
A lot of times, those are just my guys. But like a lot of times, I will go against somebody who has an undefeated record because I don't think that they're a well-rounded fighter. For instance, like Ronda Rousey, when she had her undefeated record for a while, I was like, she's not that good.
Yeah.
She's great at what she does. Don't get me wrong. She's great at those things. But is she a well-rounded mixed martial artist that should be the person that a casual would look at and say, okay, that's a great fighter? No, don't look at her. And that's what bothered me. That's why I was like, no, I want her to lose.
I think you nailed it. We don't know that about Bo Nickel. So when it comes to hype trains, you want to see past all that smoke and see, is this person a well-rounded fighter? Are they worth it type deal?
Yeah, I want to see the substance. I really want to see the substance, not just the name, not just the previous accolades coming into it, but the actual substance of who that person is as a fighter. So speaking of substance, I'll talk about this last one before you go. Robbie Lawler against Nico Price. I talked about this like a couple of episodes ago because I didn't think that this should be here. I felt like this should be on the main card because this is Robbie Lawler's last fight.
That was, to me, that's a UFC business decision. I'm really rolling with that thought. I'm trying to get more eyes on the prelim, and Robbie's a huge name. But his retirement fight, dude, didn't they do this already? Did we not learn about this? I feel like they did this not too long ago. There was another one, his retirement fight. Why are they doing that on the prelim? Like, if it's not a retirement fight, even from a business perspective, I'm like, as a fan, okay, cool. But that's disrespectful to Robbie Lawler, especially considering I'm pretty sure it was him that brought some eyes, early on in the UFC. But
I mean, he's going into the Hall of Fame on Thursday.
Right. But there was a specific fight, and I've got to run. I'm 11:15, but there was a specific fight that he had. If I have time, I'll come back, but I got to go.
Okay. So there goes CJ. She's off again. So speaking more on the Robbie Lawler fight against Nico Price, and I've talked about it before. I feel it's just a little bit of a slight. Now I'm happy that it's headlining the prelims, and that's cool. So on regular television, so he'll get those eyes. But I just feel like he deserved a little bit more of pomp and circumstance going out. His swan song for the UFC, for all the work that he did, all the beatings that he took, all of the wins that he got. Like, I felt like he deserved a little bit more. But as far as the fight itself, there's a reason that he's retiring. He's a little bit slower to react, a little bit hesitant to engage. And Nico is the very opposite of those things. And I think Nico probably gets the finish in the second round. So that's unfortunate, but I feel like Robbie deserved a little bit more. And hopefully there's a lot of people that appreciate his career, appreciate what he's done for the sport, appreciate just the human that he is and the savage that he is. He's quiet and unassuming, but he's ferocious when he gets in that cage. So Shout out to Robbie Lawler, and hopefully maybe some magic can happen. Maybe he lands a bomb and knocks him out. Who knows? That's not how these retirement fights normally go. But the last one that I'll mention before we get out of here is Jimmy Crute against Alonzo Menifield. That is a rematch. The last fight was a draw. Wasn't like crazy entertaining, but I do think that the stakes have raised a little bit for this one because they've already seen each other for 3 rounds. And I think that they both want to get that win pretty badly. Jimmy Crute is extremely well-rounded, ranked number 14 in the light heavyweight division, and this is probably a fight for that number. I think that he has more mixed martial arts skills. He's a better mixed martial artist, but I think that Alonzo Menifield is a better athlete. And I hate when they say these things about black fighters, but in a lot of cases, it's just true. He is a better athlete. It's just straight up, he is. But when it comes to areas to win, I think that Jimmy Crute has a few more. I'm leaning Jimmy Crute, but I would not at all be surprised if Alonzo lands something pretty significant and gets him out of there and steals that number. I would love to see Alonzo Menifield in the light heavyweight rankings. I think he's worked really hard, and I think that he deserves to keep moving up the ladder. So with that, we have a few more things or another video coming out later this week along with this. And we'll be on Twitter pretty heavily during the fight. We're having a fight party over here, so we're going to have a lot of stuff going on. So I think that International Fight Week, even though it hasn't been as publicized as it probably should have, I think that it's going to be an amazing card. And I think that people will be very satisfied with the product that they are presented with from the UFC this weekend. But with that, like always, remember to like and subscribe and follow us on all the socials. And yeah, till then, we'll see you later.